Can you build a lantern out of firewood so prolific that it will not only save lives but also cure your mental illness? We shall find out. I've always been a frugal man. Some might say cheap, but I've never allowed this mental illness to define me. Instead, I've used it to empower me. Much like how a morbidly obese person puts wheels on their bed in order to get fresh air, I too get creative with my disability. Can I fly first class to Dubai and stay in the Burj Khalifa? No, but I can ride a bike down the west coast and sleep in a ditch for less than half the price. One side effect to my debilitating disease is an inability to donate to charity, yet late last year, a friend asked me to run a marathon in support of the local medical university. After consulting my priest and enduring countless electroconvulsive therapy sessions, I decided to take the plunge. I'd run a marathon for charity, my first true altruistic act. Over 12 weeks of training, I became faster, leaner, and better. I documented my journey in videos and had others donate on my behalf. In December, I ran the marathon and basked in the praise, until I discovered the harsh truth. The marathon fee I'd paid didn't go to charity. It covered the event's infrastructure. Looking back, nothing I did was altruistic. The running improved my fitness. The marathon fee went to my own personal experience, and the video was another self-serving vanity project. The real charitable acts came from everyone else who donated. Determined to give back without spending money, I sought inspiration and came up with an amazing idea. Over the past few years, my local park had been experiencing a string of horrific crimes, partly due to its dark, forested areas. Using my frugality as a superpower, I would design a solar-powered lantern to light up a small section of the park, making it safer at night, all while using a material that would otherwise be transformed into ash. I would forego being warm for one night so the local park could be safer forever. But my journey is not just about me becoming an amazing person. If you're watching this video, it means you want to become an amazing person as well. And although I have little to no experience in said subject, let's become better people together through the means in which we have available. Don't let the enormity of your task hinder your resolve. As they say, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. As with any woodworking project, you need to start with a box, and firewood is famously known for being perfectly unbox-like, or out of square, one could say. So, what we need to do is get at least one side perfectly flat, which will make it easier to get another side flat, and hopefully equal to 90 degrees. My table saw blade isn't able to cut the entire log in one pass, so we'll need to get creative with cutting these pieces, which means using a chisel in several passes. Is this the best way to do it? Certainly not. Is it the safest? Even less so. After evading a certain heinous injury with cat-like reflexes, I pondered if this was the best way to do it. I thought to myself, what if I were to cut the wood smaller before taking it through the table saw once more? This epiphany led me back to the axe, from which this firewood had originally turned from rounds to pieces. This was in fact the way to go. With smaller pieces, no cutting down is necessary, and you can take your kindling straight to the jointer. The jointer is a device that uses gravity to create a flat side. As with all woodworking, and I guess life in general, we measure things in relativity. A table saw cuts one side relative to the opposite side, so in order to get two straight sides, you need at least one straight side, and you get that with a jointer. If that was confusing to you, don't worry. I'll be sure to bludgeon you over the head with further examples, as I will need to cut many pieces and get many more straight pieces of wood for making this piece. Woodworking can often be repetitive, but being able to gain the same results over and over consistently is valuable farther than just the wood shop. Right now, I'm still in the milling process. We'll take our piece to the planer, which will standardize the last dimension, width. The width is set for the width of the largest piece. Mine is approximately 1/32 of an inch. The other pieces will soon catch up to this piece, and sooner than later, we have a bevy of wood slats that are all the same. These pieces will be the four corners to the lantern. Once we have our approximate height and length cut to size, it's time to cut them down into their respective lengths. Some of these pieces will be for the vertical beams, some for the window slats, others for the top piece, and lastly, for the internal structure. For the vertical slats, we'll cut a channel that's half the width and length for our window slats to slide into. For the top piece, we'll be adding a bevel to add a little extra dash of bazing, or jouissance as the French would say. And let me tell you, as someone who has been to France, they are constantly saying that. Unfortunately, my woodshed is ancient, as is my main belt-driven table saw. Due to the nature of these combined factors, you will need to take out your more modern, contemporary table saw to make a 45-degree angled cut. Working on your cluttered, dusty floor builds character after all. We'll take the channeled vertical beams to the chop saw to cut 45-degree bevels. When put together, hopefully, you will have seamless corners, but that will depend on the glue up, in which you will first tape all of the ends together in a row and glue those ends. Then you fold them up into another square, square wood being glued together into larger squares to be glued together into larger squares. The top piece, which will have a cutout to hold the solar lantern, will be made of 3/8-inch planks glued together into one seamless plank. With thin pieces of wood being compressed as such, it can be difficult to keep the piece from bowing upward. So use something called a caul, a piece of wood that aids in the glue up when a clamp just can't reach. Just remember, when your project calls for a clamp that just can't reach for a caul. At this point, I feel like I've sufficiently bludgeoned you over the head with the fabled table saw, but I will continue to do so until morale has improved. We'll take the pieces from the channeled vertical cuts, as well as some more milled pieces, and cut them into 1/4 inch pieces that will make the basis for our window frame. Laid out, they will act as faux window panels. Do they serve a structural purpose? No, but art is often irrational, but so is your brain. So when these two conflicting notions collide, two negatives sometimes make a positive. We'll take these small sticks and cut even smaller notches into them. There's a few ways to do this, and you might opt for a handsaw and chisel, but I thought I'd bludgeon you once more with the table saw. Morale, remember? Hopefully, once all the notches are created, they will come together tightly. But don't be fooled by my tricky editing. Your notches, much like mine, will require constant and repetitive testing to get a tight fit. Cutting millimeter by millimeter, the tedium will be worth it in the end. Or will it? Hopefully, the end result will be 8 pieces that resemble this design. If not, that's fine too. I'm making most of this up as I go along, much like your weird middle-aged cousin who moved to Hollywood with nothing but a dream and a trust fund. I too am into improv. Here comes the next glue up. This will make the sides of the box in which the base and top shell perch. If I were to do this again, I would not glue the end grain shallowly to the vertical rises, but then again, improv. But also, if you're watching this for exact instructions, I'd ask, why? Go watch countless other YouTubers with far more experience making an exquisitely precise lantern. We're both learning how to make this lantern together. Remember? We're both screwing up in real time, with me making this lantern and with you watching this video. That being said, the top plank is glued and ready to house the solar light, just after a little bit of cleanup. I'll scrape off the large globs of glue I was too lazy to clean up, then give it a couple of passes with my hand planer to get everything nice and level. Then comes some sanding with 60 grit sandpaper to make this firewood nice and smooth. We'll then take this plank to the crosscut sled on, yes, that's right, the table saw, to get this bad boy nice and square. Fortunately, one side of the plank was straight, so that straight side is placed against the sled as to be the relative angle to the next 3 cuts. Again, relativity. Next step is to pull out an old solar light you found in the woodshop years ago, but for dramatic effect, put it in an old drawer and reveal it to the camera as to really hit home that you're only using things that you found within a 50-foot radius and you're not about to spend an extra dime on this charity project. Carefully measuring and tracing, this piece will get a solar lantern size hole to be plopped on top, or as the French would say, tombez-vous qu'un floc. And as someone who has been to France, let me tell you, they say this all the time. To unbeautify this plank with hole further, we'll set up our router with a chamfer bit, a bit that will create 45-degree profile along the edge of the piece. This plank is placed upon the picture frame header box. This piece will bear the weight of the lantern, so a good gluing and screwing is necessary to help keep my anxiety at bay. With all of the pieces glued up, it's time for assembly. I glue the bottom channel and start placing the window segments on top. Looking back, I would have not done it this way. Instead, I would construct the vertical segments and the top and bottom picture frames as one box unit, and then made the window segments their own boxes in which to place within the larger structure. Boxes within boxes. This also leads to adhering the windows more difficult, as I will reiterate on in a few moments. Finding some old spray paint in a long forgotten and dusty cliffside of the woodshop, I transported the lantern to the dust-free cleanroom of the woodshop for its spray down. Using state-of-the-art painting technology, a double dusting of polyurethane sparkly blue paint was applied. I supposed this would be a good coat for the lantern, as this was not a particularly rare nor pretty breed of wood. It was paint quality, one could say, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I went to my kitchen cupboard and grabbed some wax paper. Was this the best idea? No, but after all, we're all just having fun around here, now aren't we? Cutting the wax paper into squares the size of our window frames. A day later, or as this video would have you assume, mere moments later, the paint was dry and was ready for its windows. I took out the glue gun. In the past, I have bought some 1/8 inch plexiglass and sanded that down to make opaque lantern windows. But this project was for charity, so spending literally any money would have been out of the question. With that in mind, I assumed this would adhere well, but as it turns out, the glue and the wax don't make for fine bedfellows. As the saying goes, that made for strange bedfellows. This led to a less than adequate adhesion and an awkward one at that. The struggle was real and I was not happy with it, but still we must march on. Do not tarry. To go forward is to move toward perfection. March on and fear not the thorns or the sharp stones on life's path. That being said, our move forward involved drilling some pilot holes to place these threaded screw hooks. Oh hey, didn't see you there. If you like this content and want to see more of it, press that like button and maybe subscribe to the channel. I'll give you a second to do that. Alright, thanks. Another kitchen drawer find, this twine, will assist in holding the lantern further towards the heavens. I was thinking about a way to bind the twine, a ring of some sort that I wouldn't need to buy. While my initial thought went towards some kind of plastic plumbing gasket, I thought further about this plumbing idea and remembered that there are small brass rings within faucets. This, when strung through the twine, made the perfect bundler. Taking our lantern for its initial test drive, it was certain that at the very least, it could perform its duty. That's the least we could hope for, and it passed with flying colors. Or should I say, hung with at least one color, blue. The construction of our lantern had been completed. There was a lot to be learned, some good and some bad, but either way, it was a thing that was made. We are both better off having made it, as it is truly a physical manifestation of energy and time, something that can be pointed to in the real world, which is often harder to do in our digital age. A totem to kinetic energy, which is a label I would prefer over a lump of potential energy wasting away on the Barcalounger.